Maintenant, tout le monde est policier là. Il passe derrière eux pour monter aussi. Faut te mettre. vraiment parti. C'est vraiment... Ambassade de Côte d'Ivoire. Regardez, j'ai vu, je peux me filmer. Tano. Les motos déjà. La statue est non responsable. C'est le but. C'est le but.
Marche. d'une nation. Pourquoi les crimes d'une nation, je dis, doivent porter la griffe d'un seul homme? Pourquoi c'est un soldat qui peut tuer tout le monde? Pourquoi il a mis Pourquoi ce matin, mais pourquoi Soro est en prison? Pourquoi? C'est un crime d'être la Russie. C'est un crime de voter pour la Côte d'Ivoire. Je ne comprends pas de pouvoir produire. Ça me fait grave. Que vous soyez cantonné, même si vous êtes au Danemark. J'ai dit 70, depuis 70, il n'y a jamais eu le gouvernement n'a jamais reconnu à quoi verser le sang. Mais Dieu n'a fait que 3 ans. Mais Dieu n'a fait que 2 ans. Et aujourd'hui, nous sommes à une raison de au moins 10 morts. Au moins 10 morts. Il faut donc que chacun se sente, vous savez, tout bon. C'est important. Aujourd'hui, la Côte d'Ivoire est en train de brûler. La Côte d'Ivoire est en train de brûler. Commence à brûler. Chacun doit prendre ses responsabilités. Nous, autres étudiants, nous avons commencé, pas ici au Danemark, d'être engagés. La lutte est engagée. Choisissez votre bord. Dès maintenant, choisissez votre bord. Vous voulez le resto. Vous voulez votre bureau. Nous devons avoir honte, nous autres citoyens. Avoir honte du Danemark. Parce que nous n'avons rien envié à ce pays. Parce que nous avons notre économie, je vous dis, repose sur l'agriculture comme le Danemark. Notre économie, je vous dis, a autre chose, plus que le Danemark. Nous avons nos bras valides. Aujourd'hui, ces bras valides sont à Londres. Aujourd'hui, ces bras valides sont en Allemagne. Aujourd'hui, ces bras valides sont en Qu'est-ce que nous faisons? Nous ne faisons rien de bon. Nous faisons notre avenir. La Côte d'Ivoire est son avenir. Alors, mais pourquoi est-ce que l'individu doit tuer toute une population? Pourquoi est-ce que le gars, à côté, il donne arriviste? Pourquoi ce gars, ce parvenu, pourquoi? Cet étranger qu'on le pose. Pourquoi à sécher. Ils n'ont plus rien à côté au pays. Pourquoi ces gars? Ils ont été mis à la retraite. Pourquoi ces gars, moi je le dis, vous primez la jeunesse. Pourquoi ces gars, vous tuez? Vous empêchez l'innovation, vous empêchez les autres.
Ce que je vais vous apprendre va peut-être vous attrister. Vous vous rappelez avant votre arrivée ici, la mort du professeur constitutionnel. Je mentionne, lors des funérailles, on a enregistré l'arrivée. On a enregistré l'arrivée d'un émissaire du gouvernement japonais. C'est triste, vous savez.
Joseph a été l'inspirateur du programme agricole du Japon. S'il vous plaît, c'est une loi. Combien de cerveaux avons-nous en Côte d'Ivoire? Et combien de cerveaux ont pu être tués par un système foyer parce qu'ils avaient envie de faire quelque chose? Combien de cerveaux? Malheureusement, quand on s'adresse aux Ivoiriens, qu'est-ce qu'ils disent? Ceux qui vont arriver, ils vont faire la même chose. Et c'est vrai, quand on n'a pas eu le tempérament de lutteur pour faire partir quelqu'un, on n'en aura jamais. Pour faire partir celui qui viendra et qui voudra régner un dictateur. C'est ça la vie. Je vous dis, l'heure a sonné. Dans la vie d'un peuple, il y a une naissance. Dans la vie d'un peuple, il y a une mort. La formation de la Côte d'Ivoire, République de Côte d'Ivoire, a eu lieu le 4 décembre 1893. Des gens sont morts ce jour-là. D'autres sont morts le 6 février 1950. Pour voir l'avènement d'une Côte d'Ivoire nouvelle, pour voir l'avènement d'une république souveraine. Les gens sont morts. Les gens sont morts et nous avons obtenu l'indépendance. Aujourd'hui, qu'avons-nous peur? De quoi avons-nous peur? Pourquoi nous regardions des filles, des jeunes qui honte de la génération? Et je vous dis, camarades, ce qu'il faut craindre, c'est la paresse intellectuelle. Mais ces gens qui nous gouvernent aujourd'hui, de réfléchir. Alors, ils n'ont qu'une solution la plus simple, tuer. Mais quand on tue, qui va assurer la production, le processus de la production qui leur permet d'être vaincus, d'être corrompus et d'être corrupteurs? Ils vont tuer. Ils vont tuer. À qui vont-ils remettre? Pourquoi ces braves gens, pourquoi ces braves paysans comme ils les appellent, doivent-ils souffrir? Je vous dis que j'étais au CHU de Cocody quand j'ai vu une femme mourir pour 1500 francs qu'elle n'avait pas. 1500 francs CFA. 1500 francs. J'ai vu une femme mourir. 1500 francs.
Boniface, 15 couronnes.
J'ai vu
15 couronnes.
un médecin menacé de démissionner parce qu'on l'a empêché de payer pour qu'on hospitalise quelqu'un pour qu'il puisse opérer. Et ce monsieur est mort. Mais pour quelle Côte d'Ivoire? De quelle Côte d'Ivoire parlons-nous? De quelle Côte d'Ivoire? Mais pourquoi? Pourquoi devons-nous nous taire? Et des gens sont morts parce que ils ont envie de réclamer la justice, la liberté. Ils en ont marre. Et moi, j'en ai marre avec eux. Nous en avons. Nous en avons. Nous en avons marre. Marre, effectivement, parce que nos parents sont morts. Rappelez-vous cette chanson qui dit le travail de 1000 générations constituera ma Côte d'Ivoire. La Côte d'Ivoire est le fruit du travail, de la peine, de la sueur de nos aïeux. Mais pourquoi des petits ventrus, des gens qui n'ont... Mais moi je mets au défi des ambassadeurs de s'asseoir et de discuter avec moi. Je ne parle pas de toute la communauté parce qu'il y en a ici qui sont plus brillants et plus intelligents que moi-même. Moi je le mets au défi. Nous allons discuter. Et de tout. Nous allons discuter, mais je ne crois pas qu'ils puissent tenir ce défi. Je crains qu'ils puissent le tenir parce qu'ils sont comme ça. Ils sont comme ça, ils sont nombreux. Et ils ne jurent que par leur écho. Malheureusement, c'est une peine de des États-Unis ont bâti tout le système et tout le développement sur l'agriculture. Pourquoi pas nous? Nous avons été premiers producteurs pendant longtemps. Nous avons eu un boom, 8% de croissance par an. Mais à ce temps, des gens ont commandé à la Côte d'Ivoire d'acheter des nations dans de grandes industries pour faire des producteurs de pétrole, des armes pour lesquels on allait se battre pour investir au Kuwait. Mais pourquoi Bailly a refusé? Qu'est-ce qu'il a fait? Il a acheté cette action. Mais pourquoi donc devons-nous mourir? Pourquoi êtes-vous assis là? Vous êtes là parce que nous vivons. Mais vous voulez nous tuer? Mais où irez-vous? Qu'allez-vous faire? Pourquoi vous si tristes? Pourquoi êtes-vous si méchants? Pourquoi? Qu'avez-vous de plus que nous? Qui aujourd'hui croupit dans les géoles du PDCI. Les géoles du PDCI. Nous les avons connus, mais nous vous mettons en garde. Si jamais quelque chose arrivait à Soro, si jamais quelque chose arrive à Soro, nous ne voulons pas du Rwanda à Côte d'Ivoire. Mais si jamais cela arrivait, dites-vous que nul n'échappera à mort point vous. Je vous remercie. Aujourd'hui au Danemark, la lutte est la même. Vous devez vous rappeler cela. Partout où les militants de la famille seront, ce sera la lutte. La liberté, nous l'avons toujours dit. En philosophie, cela se dit. Cela ne change pas. Ça se conquiert. Je crois que pour obtenir notre liberté, il faut qu'on lutte. Je suis convaincu de cette chaise ici devant moi, que partout où elle sera, elle luttera. Cette jeunesse n'a rien à voir, je dis rien à voir avec ce gros monde. Les gens qui n'ont rien à voir, rien d'autre à faire ici au Danemark, ce qu'on a appelé nos diplomates, les militaires déguisés. Au lieu de chercher à promouvoir le pays ici au Danemark, ils se livrent à des facettes. Comment comprendre qu'un premier responsable d'une ambassade de la Côte d'Ivoire ici au Danemark, alors qu'ici, lorsque nous passons, on nous prend pour des Gambiens, on nous prend pour des Tanzaniens, on nous prend pour des Kenyans, et que sais-je encore? Quels sont ces pays à côté de la Côte d'Ivoire? Répondez-moi. Quels sont ces pays à côté de la Côte d'Ivoire? On nous prend, nous autres, Ivoiriens, pour un Gambien. Qu'est-ce que l'ambassadeur fait pour remédier à cela? Je vais peut-être vous surprendre. Il y a quelques mois, je dirais même quelques années de cela, pas trop longtemps, notre cher ambassadeur, au lieu de chercher à promouvoir Le nom du pays, l'homme se livre à chercher, se livre à l'impudicité. Et qui est-ce qu'il cherche? La secrétaire à l'ambassadeur du l'ambassadeur de ce pays est une femme. Lui, l'ambassadeur de Côte d'Ivoire, il cherche la secrétaire. Et l'ambassadeur de ce pays même s'est érigé en ambassade de Côte d'Ivoire parce que tout le système consommateur de la Côte d'Ivoire était là-bas. La Côte d'Ivoire. C'est honte de mon pays au Danemark. C'est honte. Comment comprendre? Je vous dis une chose qui va vous surprendre. D'ailleurs, ça ne vous surprend pas. Regardez. Regardez le bâtiment dans lequel se trouve l'ambassade de la Côte d'Ivoire. C'est pas ça, s'il vous plaît. En Côte d'Ivoire, la Côte d'Ivoire est un pays sous-développé. Moi, les géographes l'ont démontré, ce n'est pas moi qui le dis. Mais nous sommes à la tête. Nous sommes la honte d'un continent qui lui-même souffre.
What a nice ball. Can I play with it? Yes, but it isn't a ball. It's a globe. See all the countries drawn on it? Oh, yeah. Show me your country. Here it is, in West Africa. It is called Ivory Coast. Really? It's not far from the U.S.
Listen, my friends. Let me tell you about the Ivory Coast. It's really great. Wherever you go, it's so full of surprises. It's like being transported to another world. You soon forget all your worries. Besides, people you meet are so warm, so full of zest, always laughing and so hospitable. They go out of their way to make you feel at ease.
The sun is so warm, the air is so pure. Great for your health and for your tan.
The landscape is varied. Toward the seashore, you have the deep forests and large rivers with spectacular rapids and waterfalls. To get across, we took the quaint local ferries or the hanging liana bridges, very African. Farther inland, thick tropical grasslands dotted with clumps of trees. The northern plateau, with low-growing grass, shrubs, ideal for stock breeding and animal life.
Everywhere, you find tropical flowers with very bright colors. You can buy them in the markets. Also, beautiful sun-ripened fruits. Pineapples, papayas, mangoes, bananas. We had fun bargaining with native craftsmen. As we shopped for wood and ivory carvings, handbags, brilliantly colored local fabrics, pottery, wickerwork, jewels, and statuettes.
That's Africa. You can admire wild animals here fully protected in their natural habitat in such game reserves as the Como National Park in the north or the Asanye Reserve, just 1 hour from Abidjan. And tours are always being organized from the Safari Lodge or Gonse PLM to see elephants, lions, and other animals like buffaloes, waterbucks, warthogs, monkeys, antelopes, and unique breeds such as the pygmy hippos.
Yes, and of course, you are immersed in folklore and traditions, dances, rhythm. We even participated in village feasts in the interior of the country.
And they love modern dancing, too. The people of Ivory Coast are keen on preserving traditions, but when it comes to modern rhythms, they're with it. This busy schedule didn't prevent us from participating in our favorite sports. Golf, tennis, windsurfing, water skiing, and fishing. Everything is possible, depending on your taste.
One thing that impressed me was the food. It's so diversified. You can enjoy cooking from every part of the world. But, above all, you'll want to try the Ivorian specialties. We just loved futu, with banana or yam, atieke, and kejenu. Not only found in African restaurants, but in major intercontinental hotels as well. On the beach, you must try the freshly caught fish and lobsters. Delicious.
How true. You know, we traveled all over, but one thing we found in the Ivory Coast, we were never far from a good hotel with every modern convenience. Air conditioning, swimming pool, and every possible amenity. This is particularly true along the coast, where the beach resorts are real jewels. We enjoyed them.
There are the Club Med at Assigny and Les Palétuviers in Aswinde. Grand Lahou is another charming resort between sea and lagoon. On the ocean side, you can hear the lapping of the waves and admire the golden sand beaches and coconut groves as far as the eye can see. On the lagoon side, quiet, sparkling water lined with mangroves.
And that's not all. A lot of new resorts have recently been built in the western part of the country, in San Pedro, Sassandra, and Grand Berebi. Charming spots on unspoiled creeks and along unexplored shores. Nearby, the Thai Game Reserve can be visited in a one-day excursion. This entire area is fascinating, and we spent a few wonderful days there. What a marvelous vacation. We had everything our hearts desired.
You know, in the Ivory Coast, human values count the most. You can talk freely to everyone, exchange views. The atmosphere is friendly and peaceful. It is the country of freedom and tolerance. There are 60 different ethnic groups in the country, and it doesn't matter where you come from, because you're always welcome. We are all brothers, as President Houphouët-Boigny has often said. Yes, this young nation attaches a great importance to the human aspect of its tourism for peace. And who knows? This may also help you to understand people better, and perhaps even yourself.
They have the most beautiful variety of masks in Africa, and their festival of masks is world famous. Masks represent mythical creatures, deeply rooted in social traditions. Sometimes a friend, sometimes an enemy. They're feared and respected.
There are war and other ritual masks. Sometimes they celebrate the harvest or represent justice. And all of them relate man to supernatural forces.
Wherever you go, you find remarkably skilled craftsmen. The weavers of Korhogo, for example, are famous throughout the world. The cloth they make was originally used for shrouds or for initiation rites. It's made with cotton band on which the local artist paints ritual designs using vegetable dyes. The pattern fabrics of Waranyeni and Bassam, with their magnificent colors, are woven from cotton spun by women.
And don't forget the pottery of Katiola and Wasu, with so many different shapes and colors. The wickerworks of Agboville, Bassam, and Abidjan can add an attractive touch to any home. Wood carvings of all kinds are created by clever and enthusiastic local artists. Articles for every possible use. Sacred objects, museum or private collection pieces. The ivory used for these delicate carvings is imported, as elephant hunting is now forbidden. These are all originals and very valuable. Iron casting, a mystical and ritualistic art, symbolizes the power of the age-old blacksmith guilds, agricultural tools, and weapons. Bronze work, another traditional art, demonstrates the mastery of the use of melted wax to create statuettes, unique and original weights for weighing gold and jewelry.
Old religious beliefs are still alive. In spite of the almost universal existence of Islam and Christianity. Most of the population practice some form of animism. We had the opportunity during our stay to attend traditional ceremonies. We didn't only attend, we also tried to understand and to learn. Each village generally has its holy wood, a place full of mysteries and taboos where gods and ancestors can find shelter. A fetish hut is used by the villagers to offer sacrifices, to leave gifts, and to worship. In the eastern part of the country, juju priests, covered with kaolin, the symbol of purity, perform ritual dances to sanctify the house used as a hospital, and also to exorcise the evil spirits. In the north, the Senufos still celebrate the Poro. Gradually, until the age of 21, young people are taken through a series of initiation tests, which help them to grow into responsible men and women. The people of the Ivory Coast are very conscious of their heritage, and it is kept very much alive. Local kings and traditional chiefs are still very powerful, and government authorities deal through them on local questions. They always celebrate the pomp and ceremony of their ancient kingdoms. The colonial past is sometimes marked by painful memories. But it's still very visible in such cities as Banjarville, and especially Grand Bassam, the first capital of the Ivory Coast, whose warehouses, public buildings, and former residences are gradually being restored to bring back memories of former days and to satisfy the curiosity of the people of today.
Traditional lifestyles have endured throughout. Each village offers something special to see. Particularly the cabins built in the land of Lobi, called Sukhala. They're half terraces, half fortified places, so they can offer shelter against the wild animals that live in the area. We went there for a visit. After paying our respects to the chief, we strolled through the village, took part in some festivities, and observed the everyday life and work of a simple country folk.
And so we toured all of the Ivory Coast. But I mustn't forget to tell you, it's a country that has an eye to the future. Take Abidjan. It's a financial and business center, a busy commercial port with heavy traffic. It is a large modern city with skyscrapers, modern hospitals, a choice of newspapers, a radio and television network, an efficient public transportation system, and something very new, shuttle boats to take people cruising on the lagoon.
It is also a city of contrasts, a place where everyone, from the humblest to the richest, can make his home, and everyone has a chance to succeed. Abidjan is the expression of man's creative genius. Getting around in the Ivory Coast is not difficult. Wherever you want to go, good connections are available. The Ivory Coast agriculture is surely one of the most flourishing in Africa. It produces cocoa, coffee, bananas, pineapples, and lumber. This is a country that is developing rapidly.
Well then, my friends, have we convinced you? Are you ready to discover the Ivory Coast? You know, it's easy to get there. Ask your travel agent, Air Afrique, or other airlines serving Africa. Don't miss it. As for us, we're going back.
In the corner of a chip shop, there was a couple of white boys there, big bunch of white boys, and they looked at us, and we ignored them. And one of them come up to me, and he punched me. I just got hold of him, and next thing I'm on the floor, and punches and kicks from those white boys were coming from all directions. And every time they were swearing at me, Paki, you're gonna kill you, and all that, go back. and I was on the floor. I was unconscious. My brother looked at me for identification in the hospital, and he didn't know who I was. He didn't even know if that was me. He went and told my mom that, well, I just looked at someone. I don't know if that's Mukhtar, but if he is, you know, I don't think he's going to live.
Mukhtar Ahmed received 48 stitches to his face and scalp, and his jaw was broken. After this attack by a gang of white youths, one 17-year-old was sentenced to just 6 months in prison. Over 250,000 people in the United Kingdom suffer from racist violence every year. It ranges from verbal abuse to vandalism to physical assault. The level of racially motivated attacks in Britain is one of the highest anywhere in Western Europe. Between 1988 and 1996, these attacks tripled from 4,000 to over 12,000. The Home Secretary, Jack Straw, is now pressing for tougher sentences for racially motivated crimes. Harassment can go on, day after day, incident after incident, until it becomes literally intolerable.
We're leaving at 9 o'clock and we're reaching home 12 o'clock.
13-year-old Vijay Singh, the eldest in a family of 6 children from Manchester, hanged himself in October 1996 after persistent racial bullying. Vijay loved football and wanted to be the first professional Sikh player. After his death, his parents found his diary. Monday, he wrote, my money was taken. Tuesday, names called. Wednesday, my uniform torn. Thursday, my body pouring with blood. Friday, it's ended. Saturday, freedom. That was the day he killed himself. The UK, according to a recent report by the organisation Human Rights Watch, also has a disturbingly high record for deaths in police, prison or psychiatric custody, particularly when it comes to young, fit, black and Asian men. One death is that of a Nigerian asylum seeker called Shiji Lapite, who was stopped by plainclothes policemen in Stoke Newington in London at midnight on December the 16th, 1994. Lapite was a plumber and decorator with a 3-week-old son and a small daughter. The officers decided to arrest him. There was a violent struggle. 20 minutes later, Shiji Lapite was dead. In court, the officers said that Lapite had become violent after being stopped and searched. Later, they claimed that he had dropped 2 packets of crack cocaine. They admitted kicking him in the head, biting him, and gripping him in a neck hold. The autopsy report showed that the bones of his voice box had been broken, that he had suffered up to 45 injuries. Yet the Crown Prosecution Service announced that there was not enough evidence to bring charges. The inquest jury, however, found that Lapite had been unlawfully killed. The Crown Prosecution Service decision is being challenged. Only one successful prosecution has ever been brought against police officers involved in deaths in custody cases, and that was in 1969.
Racism in this country, as it's developed, has been seen in a very domestic context, but I've always seen it as a human right, and we need to keep talking about it as a basic human right. The way we see the whole world, the violations of civil liberties, the way we see a whole range of issues, is about human rights, human wrongs. Racism should be seen in that way too.
No one is more vulnerable to racism than immigrants and asylum seekers. In the last few years, Europe has tightened its borders against refugees. Those who do get into Fortress Europe, as it's called, are treated with growing brutality. They're subjected to racist insults, harassment, and frequent stop-and-search practices. They're detained for months or even years. Throughout Europe, in 1996 alone, 81 people died violently from suicide, attacks by neo-Nazis, or in police custody. In Germany, there have been many racist attacks. 10 asylum seekers, 6 of them children, died in a fire in their hostel in Lübeck. Their attackers were thought to be neo-Nazis. The French police have long had a reputation for ill-treating asylum seekers and for shooting unarmed people in what a recent UN report called a rising tide of xenophobia and racism. In August 1996, 1,500 riot police smashed into a church in Paris, which had been occupied by African immigrants. More surprising, given its image, are the reports coming from Switzerland of police violence towards ethnic minorities. Clement Nwankwo is a leading Nigerian lawyer and winner of several human rights awards. In April 1997, he arrived in Geneva to give evidence before the UN Commission for Human Rights. He then vanished. 4 days later, he appeared at the UN and described how he had been arrested and accused of shoplifting, pushed against a wall, hit in the face, and had his glasses broken. As he called for help, he was kicked, punched, and knocked unconscious, while the Swiss police shouted, "Nigger, nigger, nigger." He woke in a police station and was forced to strip naked. Then he was handcuffed to a metal table. It was 2 days before he was allowed to telephone a lawyer. Because of his position, Clement Nwankwo was able to issue a strong formal protest, something few asylum seekers are able to do. Before the arrival of the World Wide Web, hate groups had little influence because they were isolated and poorly funded. The internet has allowed white supremacists, anti-Semites and other extremists to spread their hatred to a vast and growing audience. It also gives them a sense of identity and common purpose. Many of the 300 to 400 hate groups using the internet today are American. Their number may seem small, but the material they put out, which is well designed with catchy graphics and arresting cartoons, is potentially extremely dangerous.
If we don't see the wider picture, that the moral health of the nation is dependent on stopping the cancer of racism, if we take the view that racism is purely something that will affect those individuals, then what we're ultimately doing is debasing society as a whole. If society is going to get sicker, then one of the things that has to increase is racism. And ultimately, for racism to increase, all that is required is for good people to do nothing.
That means us. You and me. Let us end with Mukhtar Ahmed.
Racism stays there, even though scars goes away, but it stays in your mind that you suffered that or you're gonna suffer that. And especially when you live young, and if you're gonna get married, having kids and all that, you want to make sure your kids are growing up in a safe surroundings, not where they're gonna get hassled every day. You know, you don't want to let your kids experiencing what you experience. It's terrible, it's terrible.
If you want to know more about what you can do to protest against racism, please write for further information to Human Rights, Human Wrongs, P.O. Box 7, London W12, 8UD.
One day we'll dance on the blues. One day we'll sing our freedom. One day we'll laugh in our dreams.
Integrated. Does technology really connect people?
One small step for man.
Or pave the way for a new corporate era? Is this factory producing essential medicine? Or simply creating the market for it? Is fetal surgery the patient's right? Or an act of violation? Because life isn't a science, but science affects your life. The BBC produces a science program for every perspective. Horizon, over 30 years of the science of life.
BBC World Focus presents reports from around the world now in Correspondent.
This may be a democracy now, but one where the weak are still powerless in the face of oppression. Here there's one ultimate ruler, Daniel Arap Moi, the last of Africa's old-style big men. Tonight we report on how 2 decades of his rule have drained away the nation's wealth and turned Kenya into a country of dangerous divisions.
People make mistakes or successes and so on. No society is perfect, nobody is perfect.
Sami Watumi is a man without connections, and in Kenya that means being a poor man. Once he had a small shop and a hut of his own. Now he's destitute, the victim of powerful political forces.
It's very terrible. I can just say it's terrible. Because you are reduced to a pauper. I don't know, a beggar, because everything from the very cup of tea to your meal, to your just lunch, is begging.
Sami lives in a room that measures 9 feet by 6. He shares the space with 4 other jobless men. Until the autumn of last year, Sami lived here with 6,000 other people. The site was called Soweto after the famous South African township. It had been a thriving community for more than 20 years. What Sami did not know was that a big man wanted to develop the land. On an October night last year, the shantytown was struck by fire. People escaped with what they could carry. The fire may have been an accident, but it was the beginning of the end for the community of Soweto.
I lost everything in the fire. The rest of Sowetans' life were dependent on the surrounding. People could take little gardening jobs around the residence. Business was good.
With nowhere else to go, Sami joined his neighbours in an attempt to rebuild Soweto. But as they worked, the people of Soweto faced a new threat. They were told the title to the land belonged to Stanley Githunguri, a fundraiser for the ruling party. Soon, the eviction gangs arrived.
We were very much terrified, and it took a very big courage to repulse them. When we learned from the police that the police won't help us, that's when we started pelting them with stones.
The battle of sticks and stones went on for several days. A Kenya television cameraman filmed the aftermath of one raid in which the nursery and several homes were destroyed. The gangs kept coming. Then the residents trapped one of their members. The man was hacked and beaten to death. Then they set his body alight.
We couldn't help. It was in the middle of a fight. The best thing you could do is either to kill or to be killed. Yeah, that's what maybe we felt.
The police were present, but eyewitnesses say they helped the eviction gangs as the fighting escalated. In fact, local people believe the gang leader bribed the police, and an officer who was there agreed to speak to us on condition that we protected his identity.
We were told to go to Soweto and guard some people who were brought there by a relative of Mr. Githunguri.
He's the man who owns the land, who says he owns the land, and he's also a prominent activist, money collector for KANU, the government party.
Yes. So when those people were brought there, we were told to escort them and to guard them so that they can pull down the houses, which had already been rebuilt, to pull them down. At the police station, we were given money. Every policeman who was there was given 1,000 shillings. Yes.
This is Stanley Githunguri, the millionaire businessman who drove the Sowetans from their homes. We found him in the audience on the day President Moi launched KANU's election manifesto. President Moi is the biggest of the big men, and Stanley Githunguri had come to pay him homage. Today, the president was to repeat the pledges of 20 years in office. Prosperity, progress and peace, he said. Stanley Githunguri listened carefully. Afterwards, we had the chance to ask him about the people of Soweto.
Mr. Githunguri, can I just ask you, you know you have been a controversial figure because of the Soweto land clearances.
Yes.
How do you react to charges that you used your party influence in order to have those people evicted by the police?
That's not true. That's not true. You contact me, I'll give you documentary evidence.
You've heard the allegations that your sister paid the police to have the people thrown away.
No, you have got your facts wrong.
I'm just putting to you the charges that are being made.
You got your facts wrong. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, you contact me.
We did contact Stanley Githunguri several times by telephone and by letter, but he didn't respond. As for the little man who fell victim to his eviction gangs, there's only a continuing story of humiliation.
Feeling how my mom is expecting out of me, and I can't do it. I really can't hold myself.
You don't feel proud anymore?
Proud? I don't. I'm finished.
Perhaps it was because so many of the countries around him seemed so desperate. Mobutu's Zaire, Idi Amin's Uganda, that Daniel Arap Moi's Kenya seemed a relative haven of peace. But in this society, the disease of big man politics has touched every aspect of life. President Moi rewards his friends. Meeting the people, he's been known to hand out large bundles of cash. Though when we tried to film this, a bodyguard's hand appeared. The business done, we were allowed to film again. President Moi projects himself as a unifying figure in a country of 40 tribes. The fact that the opposition is tribally divided has certainly helped him to cling to power. But the president is unsure of the public's backing, and now his party, KANU, is accused of using vast sums of public money to buy support.
It's a few bad men at the top who are the instigators of all the cases of real grand looting. At the same time, the corruption and looting in Kenya is part of a wider, very sophisticated, very effective political patronage machine. It's a machine that gives handouts to party supporters. It's a machine that pays opposition supporters to defect to the ruling party. It's an insidious thing, and it is fed by corruption. Without corruption, it will not survive.
At the main port of Mombasa, corruption has become endemic. Here, powerful figures close to President Moi stand accused of importing tons of sugar and dumping it on the local market without paying excise duty or tax. The result is that the price and the demand for local sugar has collapsed. And so, in the sugar fields of Western Kenya, an industry is dying. This is the country of the Luo people, a tribe not favored by the ruling party. Their sugarcane is withering in the fields, and with it the livelihoods of 2 million people. Dan and Nyando's cane should have been cut by the local factory 18 months ago. But the factory needs repairs and can't do the job. Now Dan is taking the withered cane home for firewood.
Most of it shall have dried, and you find eventually I'll lose a lot of hope in this, and then I'll just bring my cattle to graze on this sugar. So it's going to be 100% waste on me.
What does that do to your life, though?
I cannot make my living. I cannot live the way I want because I wholly depend on these. And when this is like my, this is where I get my money.
Dan is taking care of a large extended family. 11 people depend on him. With a 3-month-old baby and the bank looking for its money, Dan is now facing some difficult choices. In theory, farmers like Dan should be able to go to the local factory and have their cane processed for a fair price. But the factory is to close for essential repairs, and that means more delays for Dan and the other farmers. Years of official neglect and corruption have left factories in a decrepit state and robbed the industry of its potential.
People of this nation, Daniel Arap Moi, the leader, the president.
During the Cold War, President Moi was a valued ally of the West. Then there were few rumblings about the corrupt and repressive ways of KANU. Britain in particular was a staunch supporter. The West pumped billions of dollars of aid into Kenya in spite of evidence of rampant official corruption. But now the IMF has had enough and called a halt to big loans.
I think it's for the first time that they've really reached the heart of the matter in Kenya's crisis, which is corruption. And they put the ruling elite in a very difficult position, because for the current ruling elite to deal seriously with corruption is to destroy itself. So it's actually a fairly sensitive situation.
So they can't really deal with it?
They can't afford to. Even if they wanted to deal with it, their political house of cards would just come tumbling down.
In Nairobi's central market, there's plenty of food for sale. Kenya isn't one of Africa's famine zones, but it is in economic crisis. Rampant inflation and a devalued currency have caused hardship for millions.
The economic problems that people complain about here are a direct result of corruption. It's pushed up inflation and badly hindered attempts to deal with the national debt. But there is one scandal that stands above all others for sheer greed and audaciousness. That's the Goldenberg affair. Now, under this, an Asian businessman was given millions of dollars in a government-approved scheme for the export of gold and diamonds.
It was Kenya's finance minister, now vice president, who gave Goldenberg International a bonus of 35% on the value of its gold and diamond exports, ostensibly to help boost local manufacturing. One estimate puts the cost of Goldenberg and the schemes evolving from it in excess of $400 million US. What made the scheme extraordinary was that Kenya doesn't produce gold and diamonds, and the state auditor's report has no record of such exports. The company is accused of using fake documents to get the money, and there's suspicion in Kenya that some of it went to the ruling party. We went to the home of the Asian businessman Kamlesh Patni, who's accused of masterminding Goldenberg.
Just a sec, George. Excuse me. Hi. We're from...
Yes, sir.
Yes. We're from the BBC. We have an appointment with Mr. Patni.
Oh, yes, sir. He's expecting you, sir, actually. Your good name, please, sir?
Is Mr. Keane, Fergal Keane. Interesting security here. I've just been welcomed by people who are definitely Gurkhas. And you can see that there's one set of gates. Here's another, two sets of gates, actually, and a third as we come down here. So let's see what Mr. Patni has to say about all this security. Why do you have so much security here? I mean, you've got 3 gates, electric, fencing, and Gurkhas. Why do you need that much?
Well, you see, crime rate is quite high in the country, and when you become well publicized in the papers, and you know, you have to absolutely guard your security. That is paramount.
I wondered if the Gurkhas and all the rest didn't have something to do with Mr. Patney being afraid of a public that's increasingly angered by the allegations of corruption.
Well, that is absolutely ridiculous, because whatever I did was quite legal, and whatever approvals were given by the government were quite legal. It's just the shroud which has come around this golden bug, the mineral business. This is the form of gold which we used to buy during golden bug.
Mr. Patney took me on a tour of his offices. With his trial on fraud charges imminent, he's had little time for business or socializing, apart from planning his wedding next year.
This one you might be holding is about 50 grams.
The Kenyan press has linked Mr. Patney with Gideon Moi, the president's son. Mr. Moi is a wealthy businessman and one of his father's inner circle. He couldn't be contacted for interview about his association with the Goldenberg boss.
I just noticed that over here you have a portrait of the president.
Yes, we have a portrait of the president, which is a requirement for every office.
Are you a good friend of his son, Gideon?
Well, yes, I know him, indeed.
Will he be coming to your wedding?
I know him as a friend.
Will he be coming to your wedding?
Well, yes, if I invite him. Why
Will you?
not?
Will you?
There is nothing, you know.
Will you be inviting him?
Indeed, I will, yes.
Kamlesh Patney has survived 2 attempts to prosecute him and a brief spell on remand in jail. Now, under Western pressure, the government has begun another trial of Patney and civil servants accused of helping him.
Mr. Patney, can you tell me, in as simple and concise language as you possibly can, why you were paid billions for gold and diamond exports that never happened?
Well, I think in the first instance, I wish to correct you that it is your belief, just like all other doubting Thomases, that gold and diamonds was not exported. It is still a matter before a court of law. And
with respect, it's not just my belief. It's what the Auditor General of this country says. It's what your own trade statistics say. The people who you claim to have sent these things to say they never received them.
If they don't have record, I'm sure it will come out in trial. And everything has been investigated.
But could you suggest a reason why they wouldn't have a record for it?
And as I said, you know, that that to not have a record is not my job. I mean, I have my record.
Could you just, I mean, it's kind of extraordinary, isn't it, that you would send billions worth of these things out of the country.
Yes, but
and there's no record at the other end among the people you claim to have sent them
I'm
to.
repeating.
I mean, aren't people entitled to be just a little bit suspicious?
Not only little bit, they're entitled to be too much suspicious, and they have all the right to be suspicious, but what I'm saying is that record which you are claiming is not there. It is there. Maybe it is not there according to what you hear and what people are saying.
It's not. We've checked.
An Auditor General is not a god.
We have checked. It is not there. Can you explain why that is?
Well, if you have checked it is not there, you should contact the right ministry who prepares statistical records.
Do you feel you're a man who's had a hard time of things, that you've been treated unfairly?
It is just like all these struggles you see. Mandela was in for 27 years. So was, it is in the Bible, Jesus Christ was stoned before the truth was known.
Well, you've raised the names of Nelson Mandela and Jesus Christ, speaking in the same breath as yourself, but I'll put a contrary view to you, and that is that you are one of the biggest crooks and swindlers this continent has ever seen.
That is your own
That's not mine.
kind of
thinking. This is a view that's widely expressed by people on the streets, by the IMF, by many others.
No, I agree with you, but why don't you do a polling count?
Have you paid money to KANU?
I have not donated any money to KANU directly.
The whole affair is an embarrassment for President Moi, but the man who sanctioned the original scheme, the Vice President, has held on to his job. He's prepared to admit, in general terms, that the ruling party has made mistakes.
We are not in any way saying that we have been angels for the last 34 years. There have been problems, there have been mistakes. But which government has not made mistakes? Even if I were now to talk about your own government, you cannot come and tell me here that over the last 34 years, your own government has not made mistakes.
Well, one point is that it hasn't just been one government in Britain. There's been many governments over the past 30 years. Also, if Goldenberg happened in Britain, the finance minister would lose his job.
You have to understand that all these matters about allegations of corruption, wherever they are, all of them, you know, they have come up, you see, at the time of the inception of the multi-party democracy and the opposition, some of them totally, and I would like to say totally inexperienced in matters of what multi-partyism means. They have picked anything. They have told lies. And I want to say quite clearly, they have told lies. Many have told lies.
This isn't just supposition. It's not just press suggestion. Billions disappeared, and you were the boss.
You know, you still want me to talk about the subject, which I told you, that I cannot talk about a subject which is before the court. I can't.
You know that there's a suspicion in this society that the money went to Kanu and to people in State House.
I think, once again, we are still on the same subject, which I have just told you that is a subject that is before the court. And I don't think I should discuss that matter whatsoever.
In downtown Nairobi, a potholed road is getting a makeover. President Moi will arrive here soon to attend a function. Having been refused an interview with Mr. Moi, we decided to approach him as he left the function surrounded by his men. Can I just ask you, do you feel any sense of personal responsibility for the poverty and corruption in this society?
Of course. What else do you expect a head of state to do other than to be mindful of the well-being of its citizens?
Do you have any regrets about your rule?
No. People make mistakes, fall, successes, and so on. No society is perfect. Nobody is perfect.
I don't have the words to describe him and his cronies. He don't have a heart of a human being. How can he stand all this and yet call himself the head of state? He could have done anything if he's truly the head of state.
But the stability which the West took for granted in Kenya is now dangerously threatened, and the politics of greed may yet produce a turbulent reckoning.
The world headlines are next on BBC World.
An eye for trouble.
The occasional bursts of gunfire, the streets which are silent and deserted.
An ear for the truth. John Simpson is the man on the ground, shadowing stories, reviewing the facts.
We shall not up our hands for them.
The world as seen through the eyes of one of the BBC's most experienced correspondents. Simpson's World is at these times on BBC World.
Manuel Fidel, you as well as one crowd. Okay.
Yes. Come here.
Alors là, Dieu bon, hein? Maman, ne faut pas te fatiguer à ce poisson. Est-ce que ça va? Et puis, même, elle dormir. Je ne peux pas filer. Donc, si tu peux faire un petit c'est quel pied? C'est abouti.
Non, c'est biche.
Biche.
Ouais.
C'est pas abouti.
Non, c'est pas abouti. Moi, je n'aime pas abouti. Abouti, il y en a tellement que moi, je n'aime pas. Ah bon, attends, j'ai bien alors.
Oh, Pascal, oh, ma fille, je mange le tampon ici, oh. Oui, dis-moi. Merci. On va finir un peu, là qu'on voit comment ça se fait.
Tiens, tu l'as filmé, viens faire.
Non, vive la gorge des gens.
Viens t'asseoir d'abord.
Ok.
Boni, je suis gâté, hein? Voilà des gros escargots là. Mon pied d'avion n'est pas permis.
D'ailleurs, le 2005, la France, l'Espagne, l'Italie, l'Allemagne et la Grande-Bretagne se réunira à nouveau les 22 et 23 octobre prochains à Rabat, au Maroc, avec les 5 pays de l'Union du Maghreb et à chercher des solutions à la problème migratoire.
Tout à partir de l'actualité internationale avec mon entrée, l'actualité en France, la police, en commençant par le sous.
Je arrête ça.
Pourquoi?
En Tchétchénie, le Nord a été officiellement investi dimanche par la langue de la petite république du Caucase, selon le représentant de la Russie. Un modèle permettrait d'exploser sans détour ces objectifs. Dans le ventre de leur mère, ces dirigeants tchétchènes avaient lancé leur politique par le octobre dernier. La présidence avait obtenu plus de 81% des suffrages, mais écarté de la force à la On a eu un son pour quoi? La décalage, on devient de loin le premier parti européen qui avait mené une campagne Roland xénophobe a largement dépassé les prévisions des sondages. Les quatre principales les journalistes français et anglais aériens pour la première fois de leur histoire un mouvement largement destiné à protester contre les hausses dans Syrie des taxes sur le tabac, par le gouvernement pour lutter contre le tabagisme et où sa répétition qui, selon les buralistes, menace leur fonds de commerce et favorise
Ouais, ça peut aller. Je suis déjà parti. Ouais.
Bon, je voudrais sincèrement remercier Mme Yoro qui nous a fait l'honneur de nous rendre visite. Vraiment, cela me va droit au cœur. Et surtout, je dis merci aussi à Bonnie. Parce que c'est grâce à lui, selon sa conduite, c'est la manière dont il se conduit là-bas, que tout cela est arrivé. S'il se comportait mal, en tout cas, cela allait se ressentir. S'il se conduit bien, que cela se repose sur chacun de sa famille. Je voulais lui dire sincèrement merci. Et à toi, Pascal, je voulais te dire que ta tante est venue passer une journée avec nous. On s'est bien amusé. Et en tout cas, c'était bien, tout le monde était là. Ton mari Willy est venu aussi pour l'occasion. Je te dis merci. Surtout, il faut bien te comporter. Et ça, c'est tout ce que je voulais te dire. Il faut bien te comporter. Il faut faire honneur à la famille. Il faut bien te conduire. Maintenant, la maman veut te parler aussi.
Ok, allez.
Na missing the Julia. Now, Fermati, they know what they are missing, David. Take them and take where would drop, and I will buy my body for in my walking ball. Give us a father.
Non, tu me traduis pour voir ça va me traduire. Le vieux ou le vieux pas traduire le vieux ou pas traduire.
Bon, yeah, away when the fast thing back. Now, when the fast ball. When the fast grammar next day, can't get a young. Now, with my share, what fat, your family, your father saw, and I will have my ball. Now, my ball, but a ballet will foot off. Ye never would have a yard, a ballet foot off. Ye ballet is better, even near brother. Now, will they give me my family? Now, you're a class, now, get a number. Now, the people go back here for it. My brother also to let me free. You are who so that way, what is queen, who will be found that way, queen. But we see you are near them. Now, go first, now, where they are give a yakka now, with the queen canna. Getting now, I do you are. Go first, now, all the queen fire, we see 9 years, and I'm boy, a class, and then you will be fast in your book. You can't do it. Now, we fire a lady every day. You can't get those of you don't send a cackle, you don't send a car, a moon, you don't send a man, I see a kid, my house. We go to left already, left on the government, how we can't kiss it. Okay, Dorson. Now, we was now we said I got this. Now, the can't give you 4 young mamma and Yapa. Now, you know what you have to spend in the map, you will see my farm. Now, Papa, I will father off when I say to say, but if the flower, I will be. That's horrible.
Vous
Boniface et Pascal, vous nous manquez, surtout ma fille c'est Pascal, elle me manque beaucoup. Je vous souhaite beaucoup de courage, c'est pas facile là-bas, vous êtes à l'étranger, mais Dieu merci, vous avez des amis qui sont plus que des parents pour vous et qui vous soutiennent, dans toutes les
Alors, tout cela, c'est ça.
Dans tous les trucs que vous traversez, comme c'est pour le courage.